Welcome to the 52 Love Podcast, your show for 52 lessons in 52 weeks. Before we dive in, remember you can find the audio version of this episode, along with the rest of the series, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and Radio Public. And now, here's your host, Ms. Tonya Todd.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the 52 Love Podcast. 52 Love began as a blog series last year where I would do 52 love lessons in 52 weeks. So every week, a different intimacy tip to share with your partner and to improve your relationship. This year, the 52 Love Podcast explores each of those tips with a new guest each week. And today's tip is to express gratitude to your partner. And my guest here to discuss that with me is Alyson Shelton. Allison, you want to tell us who you are and what you do?
Hi, Tonya. Thanks so much for having me. My name's Allison, and I'm a writer, and I write in lots of different media. I currently have a comic book happening, and yeah, it's really exciting. And I write essays, mostly personal essays, where I talk about my past experiences, mostly trauma, and how to heal and move forward from those experiences.
Mm-hmm. Well, those are very diverse mediums.
They are. I also write screenplays. My background is I went to USC School of Film and Television.
Oh,
so my background
my brother
is film
teaches
and
there.
television. Oh, I don't. What's his name? Do I know him?
Probably not. He teaches rocket science.
He's
He's an aerospace engineer
and
probably didn't run into him in the screenwriting world.
No.
He's Dr. Radovich, if you're curious.
Okay. No, I'm like, is he a teacher at cinema television?
No,
it's a smaller world. Okay. Rocket science. Well, that's impressive.
Yeah. He gets to say, actually, it is rocket science.
He does. That's probably one of the biggest perks of having that job. So you can tell people that.
Well, my mother likes to call him, Charles Radovich Bud. Because why are we going to give him any respect for being a PhD? He's still my, bratty brother.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you come to write in such a diverse medium? Like, how did you switch gears from personal essays to comic books, screenplays? What was the path for that?
I started out with screenplays and television because that's what I'm trained in. And I did that when I was younger, and I independently made a film that I wrote and directed. And then I just hit the wall with frustration, not being heard, not being seen, being harassed. And I stopped. When we had children, I was almost grateful to be out of that world because it was not working for me. So when our kids got old enough, they were in school, I thought, I think I'd like to write again, but this time I'm just going to do it for myself. I'm not going to worry about being commercial or being what other people want me to be. I'm just going to say what's important to me and my friends or my audience. And I did write a couple of screenplays, one of which is being turned into this comic book that a friend who's a producer was like, let's make this into a comic book. And I said, sure, and having no idea what that entails, just knowing that I love comic books and there aren't enough women in the industry. So let's give it a shot. So we did that. And we had a really successful Kickstarter, like beyond our imagination of what
That's
it would.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So it was really gratifying. And so now we move on to issue 2 and potentially another series based in that world. So can you
tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's based, it's in the future after like a event and like a post-apocalyptic sort of story. And that those floods leave behind a woman who has superpowers, who is used to create a new government. But then she goes rogue and she's used by them to the point that there's not much left. And so she doesn't want to be a part of it anymore. But they have things
drawing on personal experience.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they say tell write about what you know. I don't have superpowers, but I have hit the wall. So this basically the story is about her putting her life back together and addressing that trauma, but it's also action and a love story and a revenge story, and it's gorgeous. The artist that I worked with. Her name is Elise McCall, and she's just incredibly talented. And the whole team actually is all women. So that was a goal of ours, was to have everybody be,
I'm intrigued. I want to see this.
I think you would like it. I mean, it's gorgeous, and it's not something you see all the time. And it's female. All of us, the creative team, are female. The main character is female. There are more women than men in the book. Like, I was joking about it with the artist.
So it
at one
passes
point.
the Bechdel test, huh?
It definitely does. Yes. And one of the main characters is non-binary, and we're trying to, and because it's the future, there's not a lot of white people, because there won't be a lot of white people left at that point. Everyone's more on this brown scale of things. So we're seeing people who reflect where we're headed.
Mm-hmm. So if we all mix it up, we'll all be brown anyway.
That's right. It's inevitable. Get on board, everyone.
That's so funny. Brown power.
Yeah. I mean, it's what's happening. So get with it, people. I don't know. The people who don't get with it, you're like, oh, that's
Do you think you'll
podcast.
do anything with the screenplay? Do you think you'll ever turn it into a movie?
I don't know. We're there to serve the comic fans that we have now in that audience. And we are holding on to the IP in case that does become an opportunity in the future. So, but I am just excited to be telling the story, because the thing about screenplays is you're just alone by yourself writing something, and you show it to some people and they like it and nothing happens. And it's just like creatively so draining. And that was actually a reason I got into writing essays, because I was like, oh, well, I can write something and then I can put it out into the world and get a response. And I had a very specific thing I felt I wanted to write about. I was a survivor. I don't love the word survivor or victim, but Dr. George Tyndall at USC, he assaulted thousands of women, and I'm one of those women. And the settlement checks started going out last spring, some of the settlement checks. And so I just wrote about my experience of being a patient of his and receiving that check and from his. And that sort of got me started, like, oh, I want to write about these things. This shame is not mine that I'm feeling. I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
I want to talk about this.
Do you find it cathartic to express yourself in these stories and these essays?
I do find it cathartic. I don't think trauma is there for us to make meaning of it, but I think if we do make meaning of it, sometimes it can feel cathartic.
So how are you sharing these stories? Are you posting them to your website? Are you submitting them places?
Yeah, so they're in different literary journals, or the first one was at msmagazine.com, and they're all on my website. So if people are interested, they can go to my website, which is AlysonShelton.com.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just thought I'd throw it in there. Yeah, so that's
why you're here, to promote Allison.
I found it. It was really the day that I posted, when I knew that was going live, that story, they tell you, oh, it's going live at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I had a little trouble sleeping, because I think, as many of us who've had experiences sharing these stories earlier, I was gaslit and told it wasn't a big deal, or that it didn't happen, or that, I did something to deserve this treatment, because George Tyndall's not my only experience with having something taken from me. But
it starts at at a low level, just a touch, a look, a comment that you don't want to say anything, you don't want to rock the boat, it's not that big of a deal, at least somebody finds me attractive, you just start saying these things to yourself. And it's not until this is a lot, it just starts hitting you and hitting you and hitting you. And if you don't recognize it early and start saying no, at least within yourself, you do become a victim. I mean, it's very possible to become a victim, and it's not your fault that the world puts us in this position, as women. And so there are all different degrees of having things taken from you. And so for you to, it seemed like you didn't want to say it that way, but you're right. You're absolutely right that hey, even if it's just someone walking by and smacking you on the butt who has no business touching you whatsoever, it's not okay.
Agreed.
It's still out of
And
line.
and it's that we didn't have the word microaggressions, but that's what it
Right.
is. That slow like chipping away at you, and it's you can't, like you say, the touching or the smaller things are more difficult to, because you don't want to be sensitive, right? Especially
Right. Yeah.
on that in the business. Like, I mean, I was screamed at, all the things. I think many people who are in the business have similar stories. And you can't really say anything because then people, oh, you're too sensitive, we can find someone to replace you.
Right.
Your feelings are minimized or completely ignored.
You're overreacting. It's
Yeah.
just the way people talk.
Right. Right. It's not personal, like, okay,
And I've
all that
seen
may
it
be
both
true, but
ways.
it's
I've seen
still
people actually,
wrong.
speaking to people in a way that is extremely derogatory. And then I've seen people who say sweetheart, but they say it to men or women. It's just a term of endearment. It is not anything negative whatsoever. It's just they're they just have that type of personality where they say sweetheart to everyone. If it's to everyone, then you're treating everyone equally and you don't mean anything negatively by it. But if you are singling out women and being like, hey, sweetheart, let me explain this to you. Bing,
Yes. Also with a request for you to get me my coffee, usually,
I haven't had that
oh,
experience, but it would
oh,
not
I
go well, let me
definitely
tell
have.
you.
Yeah. Like,
But I'm
what are you
not.
doing here? You're here to be servile, right? Like, no, no, I'm not.
Well, I do want to know, this week's tip is about expressing gratitude to your partner, and you
Mhm.
specifically requested this one. What was your
Yeah.
reason for wanting this one?
I'm a big fan of gratitude. I go to Al-Anon meetings, and which is for people who have had alcoholics in their lives. Mine is my childhood. Um, and they talk a lot about gratitude, and it's interesting because I already had it in me before I started
Mhm.
going, because it is always something that's helped me get out of my own sadness, or wanting to or when I feel like, why me,
Mhm.
when I'm really feeling like not in a good place. Gratitude can help me get out of it, because there is so much to be grateful for, and not in a way that it's minimizing what I'm feeling, but
Mhm.
it just helps me get some perspective, and that understanding, like, okay, feelings aren't facts. Just because I'm feeling completely isolated and alone doesn't mean that I am.
Right. Yeah.
So I have found it useful in my life. I do a gratitude list every day, and I find it, like, to get specific and to watch the changes in my life. Like, when I first started doing it, I was grateful for other people's happiness or
Mhm.
successes, because that was very outward focused. And then I started to think about, oh no, this is a gratitude list for me. What about me today am I grateful for? And
Mhm.
um,
But it was still a start. I mean, it's a good place to
oh yeah,
start, and it's good that you saw the progression of, now I'm focusing on my own gratitudes in my own life and how this is helping me.
yeah,
Do you have a
yeah. And
specific number of things that you try to put on your list?
I do 10.
Oh, that's a lot. That's
Yeah.
great.
Oh, thanks. I do, before I go to bed, I do 3 things that I did
Mhm.
that I was proud of today, which was like a word for me too. It was like, oh, proud of myself. 3
Mhm.
things that I'm looking forward to tomorrow, and 10 things I'm grateful for. Um,
Well, you've inspired me because I'm going to go to bed and say, I did 3 podcasts today, even though I have an hour's sleep after being on set.
Yours is a slam dunk today. Some days are like that. It's like, and then other days are like, 3 things I'm proud of. It takes me a minute. Or today you don't even have to think about it.
I have words. They worked.
Yeah, exactly. I had inner reserves. I drew on all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes you should be grateful to yourself for allowing yourself to rest. I find it difficult to do that,
Mhm,
to take a day of rest.
mhm.
I last year we did the Las Vegas Writers Conference, and it was supposed to be an in-person thing. We had 2 weeks to turn it into an online event. That,
Oh, wow.
nobody slept. And so the week after, I was like, oh, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to relax. And it turns out my relax, I was still doing my schedule in 15-minute increments. And it's like, all right, I think I need to just calm down to a list at this point. Just make a list. It doesn't have to be this and then this and then this and then this. It's okay to breathe this week. Some of us, we just push ourselves so hard. You say, what are the things that I'm proud of? I'm proud that I was able to switch to a list at one point and not, just push myself to complete exhaustion.
I totally, I mean, it was Audre Lorde's birthday yesterday, and well, this gives us the time frame, sorry, but it was Audre Lorde's birthday, and my friend sent me her favorite, like one of her favorite quotes of hers, and it is the like, taking care of yourself is a radical act.
Yeah.
It's
still true.
Radical act. Yeah.
It is still true.
And to have her say it, I think feels like, oh, okay. If she's saying it, like, then it's real. Like, if she's
it
telling me
validates
it's a radical, political act, then it is, because I believe her. So I was,
right.
Because that's something because I'm involved in my kids' school diversity and equity committee, and so you're always kind of pushing a boulder up a hill with certain people and policies. And so she sent that, like, okay, as a reminder, we're in this for the long haul. You got to take care of yourself, and that's true creatively and personally and with relationships. And you do, if you want to be in it for the long haul, you got to take care of yourself.
So tell us about your experience with the tip, using it with your partner.
It was so interesting because I think of myself as like, oh, I'm gratitude minded and I do say thank you. But after we spoke, I was like, okay, I'm going to really like be serious about it. I'm not just going to be like, thank you, you're wonderful, I love you, sort of. You're
going to be more mindful of it.
Yeah, more mindful. And like you were saying, looking at the person and like really taking a moment. And you think you're taking a moment other times, or I think I'm taking a moment. And the first time I really did it, I was like, thank you for, I was like cleaning out the closet or something. He thought I was teasing him. Like his reaction at first was like, oh, and then he realized like,
are you joking?
Yeah. Because I was being like mindful, like,
right.
Hey, I want to thank you for doing this. And he's like, then he saw I was serious. And like, oh, you're welcome. Okay. It was really sweet.
It gave me a little moment.
Yeah. But it was also like, oh, he thinks I'm joking. That's not a great sign. That my other gratitude is getting through.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it kind of gave me a little bit of a wake up call.
It's good that you know that. It's, know that you need to maybe more frequently.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we can all do this. Just be more frequent with a mindful gratitude expression. Not so much that it becomes ignored, but not so seldom that it's not taken seriously. Like, what?
And like that, I mean, it is something I do. If I'm feeling frustrated with a situation, I do try to find the gratitude in it. Or if I'm feeling like taken advantage, I try to like, because I think for me, that's something I struggle with, like feeling taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So gratitude is tied up in that too. Like, am I accurately seeing what I have to be grateful for before I go down that path? Or am I just
trying to find something?
Yeah.
To avoid feeling the negative parts of it.
Yeah. It's not an easy answer, right? It's not a one size fits all thing. But another one that was I was thinking about like, oh, what am I really grateful for? And he gets up with the kids in the morning. They're big. They should be able to get up for themselves, but they don't. And he gets up every morning with them. And I probably don't thank him enough because I have a little bit of guilt about it, because I usually am the like main caregiver, or, I default to that role. And so I did say like, I really want to thank you for doing that every morning. It's means a lot to me, and it's a big deal. And he said, well, thank you for thanking me. And I thought that was really, I think for me, that was the most meaningful one because it was something that I was sort of not acknowledging because of my own feelings. And it is something he does that means a lot to me. So yeah, it's powerful, I think.
It is.
I rarely feel like you thank someone. I mean, sometimes actually you do thank someone, they go, oh no, it's no big deal, but if you sincerely are mindful about it and you talk about it, because those moments are the things that have gotten through to me in my life, because I am one of those people who'll be like, oh, don't worry about it, it's no big deal. And I've really tried to retrain myself to say, you're welcome. Thank you for noticing, or, acknowledging that they have taken the time to see me and what I've done, instead of just discounting that it had any worth.
And it is a two-way streak. It's a communication.
For sure. I think for it to really hit, it has to be a two-way street. Otherwise, it's just kind of like a courtesy.
Right. Like something you would say to a stranger.
Right. Well, like, thanks for opening the door. And they're like, oh, cool.
Right. Yeah. Which is, it's great. You should be polite to strangers. You should be polite to everyone. But sometimes we just take for granted that people understand, I appreciate you, because of course I appreciate you. But if you don't say, no, I appreciate you, like for real appreciate you. I see what you're doing. I see the value in what you're giving to me, and I appreciate that value. I want you to know that you're seen.
It's the act of seeing.
Right.
And I think that was
that's,
why I
what you were even saying about your writing, that you felt like you weren't seen, you felt like you weren't heard. It all goes back to that. And that this is what we want. And it's not just women who need this, it's everyone who needs this.
Definitely. And I think that's where the, oh, don't worry about it came from for me. And I think it does for a lot of people. It's the discomfort with being seen. It's what we want, but at the same time, it makes us feel vulnerable. Or I'll speak for myself, it makes me feel very vulnerable.
And I was just going to say, thank you for sharing your vulnerability on the show, because that's how you improve intimacy. You have to deal with the vulnerable aspect of it, and you need to get into that together, and it makes you closer and stronger as a couple. And for you to take the time to say, hey, I appreciate what you're doing, and get through the weirdness of, are you joking? No, I really am being serious. And you dealt with it, and you got through the vulnerability, and ultimately it makes you stronger as a couple. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for trying the tip, and thank you for sharing it on the show. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here and talk with you. And I can't wait to see this comic. Yes. Yeah, I'm so proud of it. What's the name of the comic, and how can people find out more about you and everything that you're doing? The name of the comic is Reburn, because she has fire powers, and she's going to burn it all down if she has to get what she wants. And my name is Allison with a Y. Alyson Shelton. .com is my website, and you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at by Alyson Shelton. Well, thank you again for being on the show, and thank you everyone for watching. If you like what you saw here, please share, like, and subscribe. That's the best thing you can do to support me. I appreciate all the love I've been getting so far, but every like counts, and we appreciate it. Check out Allison at all her sites, and just in the meantime, remember that love is a verb.